All right, welcome back to another episode of Two Plain Sports. Today we are going to be covering all of the recent coaching hirings, everything that's been confirmed, and then a couple of rumors about who's going to be filling out some of the position coaches vacancies for now. Before we get started, thank you all for watching. We really appreciate it. This channel has been growing crazy fast. We finally hit over 1,000 subscribers, so we really appreciate you guys getting us there. Make sure you continue doing what you're doing. Like, subscribe, comment, turn on that notification bell, and start following us on our socials. We somehow have more subs here than we do on Twitter, so check us out on Twitter, Instagram. We're on Spotify now. Everything Two Plain Sports. We're easy to find, so go check us out, and I'll have the links in the description to make sure everything's easy access for you guys. Let's get started. So Brent went to work quick to try to fill out the staff, just like he said he would. He hit the ground running. There's an offensive coordinator now in place, and Jeff Lebby, previously the offensive coordinator for Ole Miss, and before that at UCF, I believe. Now coming into Oklahoma, he has connections to Oklahoma. It seems like everyone that Brent is hiring has some sort of connection to Oklahoma so far. And hopefully this keeps Caleb in place. I know that's a lot of fans worry right now, is making sure we don't lose Caleb, but the offense shouldn't miss a step. If anything, it might even improve with a guy that's all in on this program on the offensive side of the ball. Brandon, you want to go ahead and start?
No, yeah. I think the Jeff Lebby hire in itself is huge. We talked about this off stream here before we started this video in our little, pre-show meeting that we always have. And like you said, if anything, we can improve because Brent Venables is obviously a better defensive mind than anybody we had on the previous regime. And I know we'll segue into this a little bit later, but the numbers that Jeff Lebby has put up offensively at not only Ole Miss, but Baylor and Central Florida is really good. And he's also a pretty damn good recruiter. And I want to shout you out, Jose, because you mentioned this a couple of videos ago. Very close with Arch Manning. So maybe that Arch Manning thing to Oklahoma is a real possibility. I think the Jeff Lebby hire, outside of, him being on staff for the craziness at Baylor, with their scandals and stuff, which obviously no one's going to defend that. But as far as a football standpoint goes, he's pretty damn good. And it's a good hire from a football standpoint.
Yeah, it seemed like immediately Brent Venables had him, picked and didn't think twice. I know there was some hype about Joe Brady, after he got canned from the Panthers, which honestly, it doesn't surprise me that he got fired, because how can you win games with Cam Newton and Sam Darnold? But I mean, they're both great offensive minds. I felt like if they would have hired Joe Brady, they would have had OU would have even a better shot of keeping Caleb Williams, because Joe Brady was the offensive coordinator for LSU and recruited Caleb Williams. So they already had that connection. Not saying that Jeff Lebby can't keep him, because, I mean, he's put up numbers very similar to what Lincoln Riley's offenses have over the last 3 years. I just think the big deal is Joe Brady's proven that he can develop quarterbacks and put them in the NFL like Joe Burrow. Jeff Lebby just hasn't quite yet.
I like what you're saying, and it's a good. Joe Brady has had one good season in his entire career, and that's because they had the most stacked offense in the history of college football, I think, legitimately. He gets fired from Carolina, and I'm not saying Carolina is like a powerhouse or anything, but he got fired from Carolina in a year and a half. He wasn't even calling the plays at LSU, I don't think, when they had that monster team. Jeff Lebby, on the other hand, he's truly developed Matt Corral into one of the better quarterbacks in all of college football. I don't know. I feel like from a player development standpoint, Jeff Lebby is an upgrade over Joe Brady, and I hope Caleb Williams. I hope he can sell himself on Caleb Williams as far as that goes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he will. It's just, Joe Brady, there's a comfort level already there. But then, at least that Caleb Williams is committed to play this bowl game in the Alamo Bowl and play against Oregon. So they've got time. I mean, he's not going to enter the transfer portal tomorrow, which definitely plays into the Sooners' hand. And the more you think about it, if he was to enter into the transfer portal, where could he go? Like if you're Caleb Williams, where is a better opportunity? That's the thing. Like Jeff Lebby might not be his number one, but here's the deal. You think about what programs have openings and what their coaches are. Maybe I'm biased, but I mean, maybe the only one I could think of is Georgia, but they've got a couple guys there. And I mean, Alabama's set. LSU, I don't know what to expect. I mean, their quarterback was it Max Johnson just entered in the transfer portal. Yep. I don't know what would be. I mean, I don't think Texas would be a better landing spot, with Steve Sarkisian, with how, unstable and rocky that program is. And he's definitely not going to USC after what Lincoln Riley did. I just feel like if you're Caleb Williams, you don't want to leave because you're playing at one of the premier programs and he's shown that he doesn't want to leave. I just think it's going to take a little bit of time and just to build up that trust and that comfort. I mean, his whole family moved to Oklahoma City too. So it's not just a Caleb Williams decision. It's a whole family decision. And it's going to be that plays into the Sooners' hands that they live in Oklahoma City. That has to help. So,
sure.
Yeah.
Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt, but for those of you guys watching the video, I'll have put up the stats already from Jeff Lebby's last 2 seasons here on the video. But for those of you listening on the podcast, in 2020, Jeff Lebby had better statistics. We're comparing 7 statistical categories. Jeff had better yards per game in 2020, better rush yards per game, better pass yards per game, and then they were even in yards per play. And Lincoln just beat him out barely in points per game and plays in an entire game. So they're pretty comparable offenses in 2020, and then in 2021, Jeff just beat him out in a couple categories. So this offense isn't going to get worse by any means. And again, it could get even better with, in this program that Oklahoma has right now and the players that we have. I think if we compare them to Ole Miss's talent, Oklahoma has better talent right now, just pure talent. With Caleb Williams at quarterback, we still have Mario. Nothing has been really reported on Theo Weiss, but there's a small chance that we could get him back. He hasn't been crystal balled anywhere. I haven't seen anything about him taking any official visits yet, so there's still a small chance there. We still have Jalil Farouk, who's a great talent that already has a connection with Caleb from being younger. And we have talent at the wide receiver position that can make up for any losses. Mike Woods. So this team really just needs to get a running back for the offensive side. Which I've seen a lot of things on Twitter that people really want Zach Evans, and obviously that would be a dream scenario to be able to get him to go from TCU to OU. But I mean, if we can or can't, that's still to be seen. But we'll have Eric Gray, we'll have brought in Gavin Sawchuk, who's a really good player. So we'll have options, and this team can really jump up if Lebby puts in his game plan from day one, and these guys are able to catch on and, come day one of the season against, I believe UTEP is the first game of next year, then this team can really show like we're not missing a step. Lincoln might have left us in the dark about his move, but that's not changing how we're approaching this game. And Brent's just going to have the defense play at that next level. Like you guys have been saying, he as a coordinator is significantly better historically than the guys we had in the previous regime.
At this point, the only legitimate, the only place that Lincoln Riley hurt us at this point, or setback, or whatever you want to call it, is that 23 class that was committed to him, essentially, which we obviously lost. And, obviously the players who decommitted. But yeah, as far as building for the future and, building a staff, we're in better hands.
Yeah. It's it's just going to take, Lebby's going to get who he can towards the end of this class. I mean, it's obviously an inopportune time to be really starting to recruit in the 2022 class. Another running back that potentially the Sooners could still get is Devonte Barnes. So there's another, added talent if he will still commit. The Sooners are going to be fine. And really, I mean, the other big component of this offense that we've been worried about that might leave is Bill Bedenbaugh. Oh my gosh, I don't know why I'm struggling with that. Bill Bedenbaugh. It looks like he's staying, and that was one of the few guys that I felt like that I really did not want to leave. I did not want to have them leave to go to USC or whatever other program, and it seemed like he, stuck it out, and I think he's going to be rewarded for it, and he's going to be a big factor with the success of the offense, obviously, because if your offensive line's not good, I don't care how good of an offensive coordinator you are, it makes your life really, really, really hard.
That's the name of the program that we're on. Is all about good play up front.
Yeah. And I think, for anyone that doesn't know, for our podcast, I mean, really, we haven't brought this up in a long time, where Two Plains came from. And I'll have to give credit to Brandon. I mean, we all lived together at one point in college, but Brandon always said that we need to take Two Plains to away games because our guys are so big and so heavy. That's because the games are won and lost in the trenches. And I truly,
the thing that I would bring up back in the day is if we recruit only 5-star offensive linemen, only 5-star defensive linemen, and they're out of the park, they're home runs, they're phenomenal players, they're dominating both sides of the trenches. Give us all those 5 stars, all the best defensive offensive linemen, and give us average player everywhere else, and we're going to win every game.
It's the truth, and that's we want the Sooners to have to take 2 Plains to go to their away games, and so. But I'm really excited about Bill Bedenbaugh staying, we assume is staying, and he's going to be a big component of Levy and keeping DeMarco Murray and Joe John Finley and Cale Gundy is. It's going to be a great staff. I mean, I agree with you guys. Maybe I'm biased, of course, and you can see my sweatshirt. I just don't see a giant drop off in this offense. Whenever the talent is there, the coaching is going to still be top notch and better than 95% of the other programs in college football. And kids are still going to want to play for Oklahoma on offense and defense. It's just give it a year, and whenever the next season starts and kids start seeing the way this offense is going to play, I don't think it's going to be hard to sell.
Yep, I agree. It's going to be, we still have a few position coaches that need to be filled in, but like you said, it seems like Coach B is going to be sticking around, which helps a lot with recruiting. We could potentially see Demetrius Hunter come back. He decommitted pretty early on after the Lincoln Riley news came out. So potential we could see him back. We're still in the final 3 to 5 schools for a lot of offensive linemen, and Oregon just had a couple offensive linemen decommit after Mario Cristobal left. So we might have a chance there, because even though they could potentially follow him to Miami, we also have a great offensive line coach in Oklahoma. So there's plenty of talent out there to get at the offensive line spot, and we already have a couple coming in the 2022 class. But another coach that I want to mention is a recent addition to the defensive side is Miguel Chavez, I believe is how you pronounce his name. He is the defensive end coach, and he came from Clemson. He was, Brum, you remember his exact title?
Yeah, his title was a defensive player. He was defensive player development. He was it was a coach that he wasn't on the sidelines. He was around the program all the time. But he wasn't actually like a defensive ends coach specifically, but he played defensive line for Clemson in the mid 2000s and has been a part of the program for a few years for Clemson. And it seemed like he was really well respected at Clemson, and seems like he's an up and coming coach. And for him to go from just defensive player development to now just a full-time defensive ends coach, I would think that has to speak volumes, because Brent Venables has all the confidence in him.
Yeah, no, I agree. Straight up, I don't know much about this guy. I don't think, he's a defensive development coach at Clemson. So obviously I've never followed Clemson football like that closely. But if Brent Venables endorses him, and Brent we trust at this point, hopefully he's good at recruiting players. Hopefully he's good at developing players. I mean, obviously he probably is. That's all we need. I have one potentially crazy thing to say.
Go ahead.
I just want to throw it out there and see what you guys think. How outlandish is the possibility of next year our defensive coordinator is Dan Lanning?
I've seen a couple things about it on Twitter, but they just seem like fan rumors. It'd definitely be tough to move him from Georgia, especially if they make any sort of run in the college playoffs here. But I guess all that stuff is still to be seen. That's the one thing that is kind of in the dark for everyone. Is Brent said he's going to hire a DC, but no one has any real speculation or any real idea on who even the candidates are.
Yeah, I have a hard time believing that Dan Lanning would take a lateral, position change or, school change. I feel like he would only leave Georgia for a head coaching job. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, money talks at the end of the day. I mean, really, it really does. Everyone's for sale for a certain price. You'll move across the country for a certain price. But I feel like Georgia probably pays him really well. If he doesn't get another head coaching offer this year, it'll probably be next year that he's going to get a big time program, because inevitably some few schools.
Has he had any head coaching offers so far?
Well, I don't think he's had any formal offers from any decent sized school. I don't really know. I mean, I don't think he's had like a Auburn, offer him like Brent Venables. Brent Venables was close to taking the Auburn job. I think he's like 35 years old. So he hasn't even been a defensive coordinator, but I think for 2 years, if I'm correct. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yep.
So I feel like he will probably get a big time offer next year. And I mean, I don't think he's going to get an offer this year. I mean, I don't think Oregon's going to go after him. I mean, I could be wrong. I don't know, because I don't obviously follow him that close, but I feel like if there's going to be someone, it might be someone from Clemson. I don't really know. But then there's a rumor floating around that it's Barry Odom from, I think he's the defensive coordinator at Arkansas. I don't really know if there's any validity to that. I know that OU could pay a lot more than Arkansas could. I know it's a lateral move, but you go up in program. So I don't know. That one is the biggest mystery, and I feel like everyone's just chasing ghost on this one.
The only reason that I think it could be legitimate, and I'm not by any means reporting Brent Venables to OU, or not Brent Venables, or Dan Lanning to OU, or predicting it or anything by that means. But let's say I don't know his salary at Georgia. Let's say he's making 1.2, 1.3 million a year, whatever. Let's say Oklahoma throws him an offer at 2.5, 2.6 a year. So we double his salary. And if he has success at Oklahoma, like he is at Georgia, he's still going to be headhunted for a head coaching job. So at the end of the day, if you double the guy's salary, I'm just saying I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility.
The only reason I see him coming to OU is if he has a similar personality to Brent does. I mean, he mentioned it, I believe, is in his press conference. He wanted to go coach with Bob Stoops because he wanted to go learn more, and he didn't feel like he was personally ready to take that next step in his career. And if Lanning has a similar perspective and has that self-assessment of himself, and he believes Brent Venables is a guy that can teach him a lot, then maybe he'll take that jump. It's just tough to see him. He was rumored to be a candidate for the Oklahoma head coaching job, and I don't know. I don't think he was ever officially interviewed, but the fact that he was put out there, and I'm sure his representation may have had some sort of communication with Joe C and the administration at OU, but it'd be tough to go from I was almost a head coach at this university to I'm just taking the lateral move to this university. I wouldn't bet on it. I would think it's someone that Brent also has a connection to. I don't think if I've done my research correctly, Lanning and him don't really have any personal connection to each other than they're both defensive minded guys. So I get that. Like Brum said, that's the one where everyone is in the dark. There's no potential candidates out there that have been named. There's not even like a hint. Lanning is the only one that's really been put out there as a possibility, and that's just a rumor again.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that would help I mean, not the only thing, but one of the big things that could help Oklahoma attract him here. I know he's from the Kansas City area originally, so it's a little closer. I mean, I don't know, it's still 3.5 or 4 hours away from Norman, 4.5, but I don't know.
Or
It'll be
doubling his
interesting.
salary potentially.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you're right. If they came in with a big offer, he's getting $750,000 to $1 million raise. I mean, that money
That piques
talks.
anybody's interest. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, that right there is going to pique anybody's interest in any job field.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, I mean, it'll be interesting to see, but it's just I don't know. It's going to be an interesting hire. It's going to be someone that, like Jose was saying, a very like-minded coach. You can't have difference of philosophies. I mean, another guy, I mean, I don't, unless you guys have got anything else, I want to talk more about that defensive line for OU, the position coach, losing Coach Thibodeau. And honestly, that was the most shocking let go. I mean, OU let him go.
Yeah.
And it's just that, I was more worried about him leaving on his own, let alone actually get asked to leave. And I just feel like if you ask Thibodeau to leave, you have someone waiting in the wings that you're bringing in that's just as good, or if not better. And the rumor is Todd Bates.
Yeah. I mean, it is tough, but I think he's also just trying to clean house and have his people there. And yeah, he has a personal connect. Brent has a personal connection to Thibodeau, but there's also a coaching philosophy difference more than likely. If he didn't want to keep him around, they probably didn't want to run similar, defenses or coach similarly at the defensive line position. And like Brent said, his goal is to have a suffocating defense, relentless suffocating defense. And if that's not what Calvin was if he wasn't up for that challenge, then I mean, he's gonna get an opportunity somewhere. He's an amazing recruiter. Like we saw Dindy decommit and quickly commit to A&M because Thibodeau was no longer the coach he was going to play for. He's going to find a job merely at least on the fact that he's an amazing recruiter, and he will be able to get whatever school he coaches for next amazing talent. And he's also a good coach. I mean, we saw guys on the defensive line make big jumps after getting to campus. I mean, that we had a really good defense, middle of the defensive line with Perrion, Redmond, Ellison, and Co. And now it's just going to be who's going to be able to replace that. And hopefully it is Todd Bates, because that guy he's got a pretty good track record in regards to recruiting. The last big one was Brian, I believe his last name is pronounced Brees. He was from the 2019 class, if I remember correctly. And believe he was the number one overall player. He's the number one defensive tackle in his class. So if it is him, he can definitely recruit just like Calvin could, and he can coach him just as well, if not better.
Yeah, no, I think your last point that you brought up right there, that's what I was going to talk about, because as soon as you landed Venables, that's one guy that I was looking at specifically, Brees, whatever his last, however you correctly pronounce that. I was hoping that would be a guy that would kind of come with Venables, hoping he was like a Venables guy. He obviously posted today on somewhere on social media, either Twitter or Instagram or something, just a picture in uniform and said, "I'm staying home." So obviously he's not following Venables, but maybe he's a Todd Bates guy. And yeah, because I mean, as you had mentioned, Hose, and you and Brum, same as you, as soon as we let Thibodeau go, we lose Dindy, who's obviously a monster. So you replace him. And eventually we will, no matter who it is. But if Todd Bates is the hire and he can somehow flip Breesy to OU, that would be pretty good.
Yeah. And I mean, a little more background on him. He's obviously the defensive line coach, but he's also recruiting coordinator for Clemson. In 2019, he was Rivals Recruiter of the Year. I mean, he's pulled in, obviously, you talked about Brian Barisi, but he's pulled in 9 other 4-stars, and he joined the Clemson staff in 2017. So he alone has brought in 10 5 and 4 stars for Clemson in the matter of 4 years. And that's pretty darn good, if you ask me, especially along that defensive line, linebacker, whoever he was leading up for. I mean, I don't care what position you are. If you're pulling in that many top-notch recruits, you're doing something right. And so if he's the hire, I feel like that's a home run hire. I don't know if it is. It could be someone we don't even have an idea of who it is, but that could be someone. And if it is, I'd be extremely excited about.
Yeah, that would definitely be a big get, not just for recruiting, but for the coaching side. The last coach that's been confirmed and probably the one that's gotten the most excitement, not just from fans, but from ex-players, alumni, is Smitty. I mean, that guy, the new strength and conditioning coach, kind of new. I mean, he really hasn't been gone for that long, 4 years, and it feels like he never left. You see things on Twitter about people quoting him, making him
He gets pissed if you don't make your time.
yeah, calling everyone big dog, getting people on the Stairmaster because they're a couple minutes late and they have to be on there for an hour. Like, this dude's gonna make these guys both love and hate football all at the same time, but they're gonna feel a lot better. No, a lot. One of the big gripes from fans this season was that it seemed like players were unmotivated, and the strength and conditioning coach is one of the guys that they spend a lot of time with, and he's kind of part of that mental state in football. Because if that guy's not hyped about you making a play or doing something good, then maybe that's going to translate on the field. So this is a guy that's proven. He's helped A&M, make some big leaps in regards to their player development, and this dude's going to help out again. Coming back to OU, back where he did some great things with Bob, with Brent. We're going to get back to that tough football mind that we had with Bob.
Yeah, I mean, another thing that can't be forgotten about him is he's been a part of 3 different programs that have won national championships while he's been there. Oklahoma, Florida, Notre Dame. He knows what it takes to win. I mean, everywhere he goes, the team seems to be really good. I mean, A&M in the last few years, as much as we don't care for A&M, I know they've gotten a lot more talent through their recruiting with Jimbo Fisher, but you can tell just how big they are in their strength and how well they're conditioned, and it's just different. And I feel like it just, Oklahoma didn't have it. And the more I've looked at it, it seemed like a lot of players weren't really liking Benny Wiley at the end of end of his tenure here. He was all about speed and quickness, but nothing about strength. And I think that some of the players probably thought that they should have a little more strength because they were probably struggling in various spots, or they felt, overpowered in a few areas. And I don't think OU is going to have any issue now with Schmitty in there. And just the fact that all the old players talk so highly of him and how well he keeps, the accountability that he provides. I think that's been the biggest thing that OU's been missing, is the accountability. There just hasn't been offense, defense, special teams. The accountability just hasn't been there in the program, I felt like. And I just feel like Venables and Schmitty will bring that discipline to these players and make them love football but hate it at the same time.
No, yeah. The best thing about Schmitty is, have you guys seen on Twitter a single ex-player have a single bad thing? He's been endorsed by so many ex-players like that. It's exciting. Like, they're all, it's so cool. Schmitty's back. Can't wait to watch someone work. Like, they know he's going to kill these players, or like, you know what I mean? Or like, I think Teddy Lehman posted on Twitter when he found out Schmitty was coming back a great story about how he brought the Stairmaster hose, as you mentioned, but Teddy Lehman said that Schmitty made him get on the Stairmaster for an hour for a workout he was not late to. Like, I guess they had like a 6 a.m. workout or something, and he showed up at like 5:58. So he wasn't late, but Schmitty made him do the Stairmaster afterwards and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, he's absolutely going to build a tougher, more, just a tougher group. And I think Lincoln Riley didn't want him there because, as you mentioned, Benny Wiley was trying to go speed, maybe to fit the speed D scheme or whatever. But Schmitty's going to have these guys pretty damn fit and pretty damn, in shape.
Yeah, and it's interesting that he leaves in 2017, kind of about the time Lincoln Riley kind of is taken over.
Because he didn't fit Lincoln Riley's Hollywood scheme.
Oh, I know. And then as soon as he's gone, he's like, okay, I'm coming back. I'm sure the money's great. I'm not saying that he might not be making more money now, but I just think it's interesting that
he didn't fit the Hollywood scheme.
Yeah, the Hollywood, but old Benny Wiley and them, they'll let the pretty boys play out west. So
yeah, I mean, the more we look back, I mean, we all have our opinions on how Lincoln left, but we had a lot of success with him, and now we just feel like with the offensive coordinator we have in Levy, the new head coach with Brent, and hopefully he's got really good defensive coordinators lined up to take the job. This team didn't take a step back, like we said at the beginning of the video. This team, if they're either at the same spot they were in to start the season, if not better, because now we've got guys that are bringing a different mentality and they're going to play hard-nosed football like we all love to see. And it's going to be exciting to watch. Obviously, there's still a lot of position coaches that they've got to fill in. And today that we're recording this is Wednesday. Hopefully we get to hear some news about this stuff as the days come on, and hopefully the staff is filled by the beginning of next week at the latest.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any final thoughts before we wrap it up for today?
My final thought is, if you made it this far, you need to subscribe. I mean, our hours of subscriber watching has been going down because we're reaching a wider audience. But man, come on, hit that subscribe button. If you made it 30 minutes, I think you kind of like us.
I agree, and I'll follow that with also follow our social media pages.
Yeah,
for the boys, subscribe, go to Twitter, go to Instagram, Spotify as well. It's new. Download Spotify if you don't have it. It's free. You can listen to podcasts free on there. Subscribe to all of them. Follow us on all of that. Make sure you're liking, subscribing on YouTube, importantly as well. And leave a comment. Let us know what you're excited
about.
Also,
comment if you watch the entire video. I think that'd be kind of fun to see who actually saw the whole entire video.
That's a good point. Let us know if you saw the whole video. And let us know what you think about the entire coaching staff and who's going to take over this defensive coordinator position, because it's anyone's guess at this point. Thank you all for watching. We really appreciate it. We'll see you next time.